Hello guys and welcome to Seve Talk, my monthly podcast. I am Séverine Tamborero, professional tennis coach, author, and a creative thinker. On this podcast, we will be talking about life, sports, business, and much more with my very special guests. Join me every month at coachseve.com or on my Facebook page for the third season of Seve Talk. Hi everyone and welcome to the third season of Seve Talk. Today I have someone special. I have someone that I met in Montreal, I think it's about 8 years ago. And honestly, I've been harassing him for the past year to be part of this podcast. And it's not that he didn't want to do it, but this guy is so busy. So I want to introduce Yoann Damet to the podcast today. Yoann is the assistant coach at the MLS FC Cincinnati. He has a path that I think would be amazing to discuss with you guys. So I want to welcome Yoann to Seve Talk. Welcome, Yoann.
Thanks, Seve. Thanks for having me.
Good, Yoann. It's amazing to see you. First of all, it's been too long. And for you to be part of this conversation, what's going to be very interesting for people to hear is we're born both in France. You're born in Marseille, I'm born in Toulouse. So it's very interesting to do this in English, but our community wants to hear your story and where you've been and where you're at. And one thing that I talked to you in the past is that you've been in soccer for a long years, but you're still young. And your path is a bit interesting. So you started playing soccer when you were 8 years old. So soccer, I think, was in your life from 8 to 16. Can you share with us why soccer and the path of you playing at which level?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say I'm very happy to be on the podcast with you. And like you mentioned, like we would have thought like a couple of years ago that we would be doing that in English. So I'm very happy about it, and I'm looking forward to having a great time. So just to go back to that question, I'd say like so I was 8 years old in 1998, and what happened at this time in France was the FIFA World Cup was there. FIFA World Cup was all over France, and before that, I never kicked a ball, never really played football before, and what happened during that time is like the enthusiasm around the French national team at this time became bigger and bigger, and I found myself being like 8 years old and watching games and enjoying it. And I'd say the 12th of July 1998 was the final, and that was probably the first time in my life that I experienced something that strong, like with sports. So I found myself like after the game, like having goosebumps, like almost crying, like just being like so happy. And that was the first time I was like, wow, like wait a minute, what is this? And I realized that through sports you could live like so much, like so many emotions. And the season after, so 98, 99, I started to play at a youth club at the amateur level, and basically I played until I was 22, 23. I played at a decent level, like amateur level. I wanted to become a pro when I was younger, as I think it's like every kid's dream. But very early, I'd say around 15 years old, I was like, you know what? And I know I can't make it, but what I can do is maybe take a different path because I love this so much. Like that was my passion. I had a very strong love for the game, and I had the opportunity during that time to have like amazing coaches that inspired me. And I told myself, I was like, you know what, if I can't, or if I don't want to become a player, what can I become? And I felt like, oh, why shouldn't I be like this coach that was there for me, that was like more than a coach, but also like a big brother, someone teaching me not just about football, but about life. And I was like, okay, let me try to do that and see if I enjoy it and if I'm good at it. And at age 16, started to coach and like really loved it. So I was like, okay, you know what, my dream might be different than other kids. I don't want to be a player, but I want to be a coach, and I want to make that for a living. I want to live from my passion. So that's the way I saw things at the time, and that's the path I decided to take.
It's amazing. And that's why I was saying earlier, that's why I feel hearing your story is getting close to my story. When it was a bit the same thing, you know, at 16 years old, I had an opportunity to coach and right away connected with me. And I'm like, I found my passion. And at 17, I had an opportunity to go full time and I did that. And hearing you, what's very interesting is you said that from the beginning, you were inspired from a match, from a team, from an emotion. And knowing you, I know that's also what are your values as a person and as a coach. Would you say that this is something that the youth of today is missing? Either that role, those role models, or that passion of playing for the right reasons. I'm not saying that the kids are not doing that for the right reasons, but every time I hear a kid, what do you want to do when you're older in your sport? I want to make money. I want to be on the first page of a magazine. I want to do this. I want to do that. So hearing you that you wanted to be playing soccer for the emotion that it was giving you, do you think that's missing? And we're going to come back to that because you worked with younger kids into sports overall.
I think what's missing is definitely the passion, like the passion of the sport itself. You know, like you see that the motivation for the kids have shifted a lot. Now they see like all these big time players, and the only thing they see is like they're the best, and they have like, I'd say, all the things around the sport. So a nice house, nice cars, and I think they picture that as being like the ransom of success. But I would say definitely probably before, and I'm telling you, there is still players like that. There is still players that love the sport. There is still players that are passionate about it, but definitely like less than before probably. And for me, like what you try to install, especially at the youth level, is that passion for the game. Is like, we're not playing only for winning. We're not playing only to be the best. We're playing because we want to get better, we want to improve, and that's the values of life, I'd say, that you want to transmit to the players, is like that discipline, that self-discipline, like to repeat every single day things that sometimes are more difficult than others, the respect also that you need to have for others, the open-mindedness to accept criticism, but also like ask yourself the right question in order to keep moving forward. Like all these things, I think, are still there, but I would definitely say that passion that was there before, that was driving the players within themselves, is probably a bit different now. And I'd say the motivation is a bit more extrinsic, where the players are trying to do that because they see the end product, they see the final stage of it. So I think the passion is something we all like strive for, and we need to ignite that within the players. That's our role as coaches, I believe.
I totally agree with you. And through your pathway, you're saying that I think the sport chosen you as a coach at 17 years old. If I'm not mistaken, you had an opportunity in 2014 to join as a coordinator of the under 12 team with the Impact Academy, being the MLS in Montreal. What was that experience for you? First of all, moving away from your family, your friends, another country, coming in and knowing the environment that was there when you came in with Philippe Elfroy, with Nima, with Antoine, that did a podcast also for us, people that are passionate, and you're coming into that environment. What was like that transition, and why did you decide to come to Montreal when soccer is one of the biggest thing in France?
Yeah, I'd say, like, again, life is made of opportunities, and sometimes taking risk is an opportunity. And at that time, like, I was like trying to work my way up and working on my craft, and like doing my licenses through the French Federation. And I studied also like at a university, like in sports training, And all of this like put together, and I was like working out to get where I wanted to be. But like you also at some point have to be realistic. In France, in Europe, it's very difficult. I was young at the time. I was 20, in my 20s, like 22, 23. And I knew that it was going to take me probably another 10, 15 years before I could start living from football, if I was lucky, if the opportunity would come. And when that opportunity came with Montreal, again through like lots of different things, like I connected with a friend from Canada that came in France. We met in France. We played football together. Then he invited me to spend like some times in Canada for vacation. Then I really loved it. I enjoyed my time, so I kept on coming back like and forth like in the summer. And I created some relationship, and this relationship helped me later on, like having that opportunity on the table. So this opportunity was for the taking. I took my chance. I applied for the job, got the job, and decided to leave. So of course that's always a big risk. You're leaving everything behind, but for me, like I said, my passion is like the thing that drives my life. So football for me is like just more than a sport. It's my life, and all my decisions have been like made based on that. Like I wanna live like on that. I wanna live from football. So when that opportunity came, I was like, you know what, I need to follow my dreams. I need to go. So I went to Montreal, and what I found over there was like unbelievable. Whether it was like the culture, the country, but also the people, the relationship I created over there was like unbelievable. The structure was so open-minded and like so challenging in the same time. I had for challenge to create the pre-academy, so implement 5 new teams that were gonna follow the same development path than the academy. So recruit coaches, recruit players, run the programs, but also in the same times I was involved with the academy on the fitness side, but also on the coaching side. So I was like multitasking at the time, but this was so rich. And like you mentioned, I think life is also like about meeting people and about creating relationship. And what I found when I arrived, it was like amazing people, but not only on the human side, but also people that were striving every day to get better, to improve, to look for new ideas, to challenge themselves. And that fed me so much during that time. For me, like my time in Montreal is definitely like a turning point in terms of like my open-mindedness, me experimenting things, me like having the opportunity to be in like a laboratory with the young players and try new things, and that was just great. Like, so that's something I will never regret. It was a big risk, but every time I look back, I only have good memories about it, and I think it definitely helped me build who am I today.
And it's great to hear you, because again, I've been around you at that time. I've been around all the team that was there, and I think it shows the character also that you have. I think being able to, as a coach, to be open to new ideas, to be open to conversation about how can we be better, what can we do. And I remember when I was around you having that conversation, you were taking courses with the National Institute of Coaching in Montreal, even if you had all those information probably from what you did in France when you studied there. But the openness that you had, I think it's to your credit. And I think that's why, as a coach, we're trying to grow not by imposing who we are, but by molding who we are with the people that surround us. And I know that you were involved in a lot of things in physical, in trying to give a structure to the young kids, but also I do think that you had at heart helping the parents in that process. And we had conversation on that. My question on young players, because that's what you did for a few years, and young players that you also coach in France, do you think culturally there was a difference in the kids that you coach in Montreal versus the coach in France related to a sport that is still something that football, as we call, or soccer, we want to bring to Canada and we want to bring to Montreal with the MLS team that we have here?
I think the most like the thing that was the most different is more like the cultural aspect of the country. If you go back to like the origin and the way football is played in Europe, football in Europe is played like in clubs that are association, helped by the government. Fields are offered by the government for the clubs to run their programs and have their teams play. And it's almost free. Like I was playing and I was maybe paying like 80 euros a season. And we're speaking about like a 11-month season. And you arrive in Canada and the practice is totally different. It's more expensive. The climate makes things also more difficult in the winter. You need to rent facilities. So I'd say you don't touch the same type of people. And definitely in France, like street football was something big. I remember myself, like I was a kid and I was like every weekend, like outside of the game with my club. If you wanted to find me, you had to go to the stadium outdoor. I was with my friend. We would play games, like we would call each other and play 5-a-side, play 7-a-side, and just practice on our own. And that's how you develop some skills that sometimes you cannot develop like in clubs. And that's why also like some players are so advanced, so young. And in Canada, it's a bit different because maybe you can less practice also like in the street with your friend, because every time you need to have a field, like you need to pay for it, or there is some open field like in the summer and it's nice, but also the winter is so long. So all these little things makes it a little bit different in terms of like the culture of the sport. And also of course like we grow up like watching football on TV. It's the Champions League, it's like the Premier League, it's like the French first division, all these things. You're in North America, and still now, like when I try to watch games, like apart from the Premier League and the MLS, it's out to watch like and the Champions League, it's out to go like into, it's better and better, but it's not like in the culture to have games every single day. But you would see NBA, you would see like NHL, NFL, like all these things. So I'd say that's definitely that little cultural difference that I could feel. But a kid is a kid, and when you're 8 years old, whether you're French, whether you're Canadian, you're American, you're Japanese, it's the same thing. So I'd say you face the same challenging about like you need to build the human being first, and around that you want to teach him football. So I think that was always the challenge about, we put first the human being. Like when you work with kids, like you need to educate them, you need to teach them the right values, you need to create a safe environment for them, you need to teach them like equality, the fact that we're all there for the same goal. And then around that you give them like lots of football and lots of football education as well. But I think, and that ties into what I was saying, like sports in general is like a great teacher where there is no differences between people. I think it unites everybody, whether like where you come from, your religion, anything. And that's what you want to teach the kids from the younger age, not only because like that's the sport we practice and that's the sport we do, but because later on, when they are citizens, when they are like adults, you want them to carry on these same values. So I think that's the biggest challenge as a youth coach.
Listen, Yoann, like always, I'm not losing touch of hearing you and how great it was, and it still is, to listen to you talking about development, because I had a conversation with international friends recently about under 10 players, under 10 tennis, under 10 development. And one thing that I always say is exactly the same thing as you. We have to create human beings before we create athletes or we create players. And it's still, what's impresses me is that it's still unpopular. It's still unpopular to say, and I heard a coach saying, when you say that you want to create humans before players, it's because you don't understand what going to the next level is. So it's very interesting. And I think, again, it goes back to the identity of a coach. If as a coach, we do have those values of making sure that they're not just great into the sport that they do, but also in society. And when they become adults, we will be coaching that way. And would you say that you said earlier that you had coaches that inspired you? Do you think you're this way in regards of values, in regards of what you want to give back to the kids? And I'm saying the kids now, but we're going to come back to your players at FC Cincinnati. But is there any coach that was like that and you saw that and you went, that's how I want to be?
Yeah, I had a coach when I was 13 years old that was like a big source of inspiration for me. Just because, like, again, for me, the best way to coach, the best way to teach and to educate is to be a role model yourself. So if you want to teach something, then give the right example to your players, give the right example to the people around you. The way you carry yourself is so important. And having that coach at this time, like in my youth development, was like a blessing. He was like more than a coach for me and for lots of players that played alongside me at this time. We still speak about him, and I'm still in touch with him because yeah, that was more than football. There was a difference between someone trying to get the best out of you on the football side, but also someone that could listen, someone that was respectful, someone that was like I said, like a big brother to many of us. And you see that and you're like, wow, I want to be like that. I want to be like that. I want to inspire kids to get better, to be better human beings, but also to be better football players. So for me, that was definitely like something that changed my vision when I was younger. Some people realize that later on. I was 15, 16 when I realized that, oh, maybe I should be that guy and do the same thing for younger players. And that's the path I decided to take. When you decide to become a coach, at the end of the day, it's not about yourself, it's about your players. It's about the people around you. You don't do that to put yourself in the spotlight. You do that to put your players in the spotlight. And that's what the path I decided to take like a long time ago now.
And it's great. Again, I think it goes with your character, and I agree with you. I think when you're in coaching for the right reasons, you're doing it because you want to give back. Whatever that means, it's different for each of us. But I always say, you know, when I see someone that I coached that they're 20, 25 today, they're not talking to me about, oh my God, Seve, thank you for the grip that you changed when I was 5. They're talking to me about the friendships that they made, the fun that they had. And we seem to take fun out of the equation too early. You've been, again, someone that I find has an amazing pathway in regards of coaching because you have that interest in others. You have that interest of sharing. You have that interest of learning. And through the pathway, you seem to also to be patient without having necessarily a goal to go to the higher level. But in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, you had an opportunity to go as an assistant coach to the FC Cincinnati. How this happened in your life, and what was your reaction when you got the call and saying, we have something for you? And I'm going to mention that if I'm not mistaken, you're the youngest assistant coach in the MLS.
Yeah, so what happened in 2017 was again like an opportunity. So like you said, like the way I see life in general is if you want to keep growing, you need to be uncomfortable. You need to challenge yourself. And that's why like all along the way, I kept challenging myself, like doing new licenses. I got my UFA license in France. When I arrived in Canada, I started from B again, B license, A license, just to get a similar level, but experience something different. I'm now in America. I'm starting my pro license with the US Soccer Federation. So like all of these challenges I did like a fitness degree when I was in Montreal, what you mentioned before, because I wanted to be uncomfortable. I wanted to extend my knowledge and be challenged. And that's why like I believe you grow outside of your comfort zone That's what happened in 2017. It's like you get a call and you have to make a decision like within maybe 2 weeks. And you're thinking, okay, at the time I was like the U19 head coach. I was the coordinator of the pre-academy. We had a beautiful club, new training facilities. The potential in Montreal was and still is so big. And I was settling in with my girlfriend at the time, that is my wife now, and we had lots of friends around, and like I basically built back my life in Montreal for 3 years. And that opportunity comes, and you're like, okay, what do I do? Do I jump on the opportunity because I want to challenge myself, or do I stay in my comfort zone because I have everything I need and everything I'm asking for? And the way I made up my mind was like, for me, that was simple. That was like, okay, this opportunity first might come only once, and second will challenge me probably as the most it could be. I would have to move to a new country one more time. I would have to learn a new language because my English at the time was probably not what it is right now. So like challenging myself, speaking a different language. But at the back of my mind, I always had that feeling that, okay, I have the opportunity to work with professional athletes, to work with a club, for a club that is building a project. And for me, like in every opportunity I took, building something has always been like one of my number one motivation. When there is something to build that is going to last, that is going to leave probably like a legacy at the end, I've always been interested. And yeah, that speaking English was for me also like the challenge of it, but knowing that this was going to give me another tool to my skill box in terms of I need to speak different languages. I'm now trying to learn Spanish. I've started recently, but you need to learn different languages. You need to be open to the world, and if you want to discover new things, that's the only thing you can do it. So when the opportunity came, that was like crazy 2 weeks where you have to think quick, and also sometimes you have to take risks. I'm probably like, based on like all the coaches that we have here in the club, I'm probably the only one that didn't come to visit the city before I made up my mind. So like just on a conversation, on a phone conversation, I said, you know what? Okay, let's go. I'm gonna sign the contract. I'm gonna pack my stuff, drive with my car from Montreal to Cincinnati, and here I was in 2017, starting like a new journey, and I'm really happy I did it again.
Yes, because you're still there, and it's amazing. And what would you say was the biggest, outside of the personal challenges of moving away from friends and a life that you were trying to rebuild, and the languages and everything? What would you say was the biggest challenge or things that you had to adjust going from working with younger players and now moving on to pro sport with adults?
I'd say that I don't think that was a challenge, because like I was lucky enough to work with 18, 19 years old like players in Montreal, and I'd say like the difference between that age group and like professional players, where we still have like at the time like maybe one or two players around 20, is quite similar. It just, for me, the main challenge was going to be to speak English. I like to create relationship with players. I like to be close of them. I like to establish that trust on the pitch, but also like through discussing with them, not only about football, but about their life, and better understand the human being behind the player. And for me, that was what the biggest challenge it was going to be. Also, like I'm someone that likes to be detailed in my preparation, but also in my job on the field, and not being able to express myself clearly was like sometimes very, very challenging and frustrating for myself, because like I felt that I wasn't the best I could be. So I challenged myself to learn quicker and to try to speak more and feel more comfortable, like speaking a different language. And at the end, that became better, and the players helped me, and that's the relationship also you want to have. Like that's the thing also about being a coach, is like you give so much to the players, but you should never forget the players give you so much back. sometimes without even knowing it. But that was definitely the biggest challenge, and there was also some fun stories at the time of me trying to speak English, me using like.
We want to hear it. We want to hear it.
I was. I've mentioned that example like a couple of times, but I was in French you say libérer l'espace, which means literally in English liberate the space. So for 6 months at the club, my first 6 months, I was saying that you need to liberate the space, and the guys were saying nothing, really professional and really nice, and didn't want to bother me. And after 6 months, there is someone that came to me and said, "Yo, you can't say that. You need to say creating space. You need to create space." And I was like, "So you guys didn't tell me for 6 months, and now you dare to tell me that?" So I was like, "Okay, thanks. I'll take it with me," and I moved on. But lots of little things like that makes it like also fun and nice. And when I say you need to get out of your comfort zone, like that's what it was. You know, sometimes where you speak and you see on the faces that the guys are like, "Oh, what is he saying?" or my accent, or all these little things. But it's fun, and that's also what helps building you.
No, for sure, and I'm sure that those situations brings a lot of, like you say, relationship. A technical question, because I've been asked that a lot as a coach working with an individual sport, and you're working with a team sport. You talked about earlier about equity and equality, about playing and making sure that the players are there for the same reasons. How do you deal, or you have dealt with, whoever that it was, the younger players or even the pro ones, when someone wants to have the same game time, the same time on the field, or they're disappointed because normally they play 5 minutes and they played 1 minute at that time? How do you deal with that as a coach? What would be a tool or some tools that you can give the coaches working with teams and that have the same challenges?
I'd say that's definitely different now at the professional level than it was at the youth level. At the youth level, I'd say to a certain degree and to a certain age, you need to share the playing times for the development of the players. And like the closer you get to the elite level, you need also to reward performances in training and in games, and at some point, like there is going to be an imbalance between like the players that are performing and the players that are probably less performing. So it's all about, for me, it's all about creating an environment where what you require from your player is very clear. It's never going to be completely objective, because like the sport is like made of a lot of subjectivity in terms of how I see what's good, what's a good pass, what's a bad pass. For me, for you, it might be different. But in terms of like how you analyze the game, what is the project you want to have, how you define success, meaning by that, like how we're going to play football, and try to give details and be clear in how you're going to structure that to make sure the players understand their role, their responsibilities, but also what's asked from them. And from the moment you create this understanding of roles, responsibilities, and what is asked in terms of the task they have to achieve, then I think it's easier to give them feedback. And for me, it's always been like that, trying to give feedback, trying to, okay, listen, like this is where you're at. You're missing this, you're missing that. Maybe you need to work a bit more on this. This is what I saw in training, and try to be as detailed as you can and feed them with like mini goals that they can like try to reach in the following training or in the following week of training, that is going to help them improve and probably like regain that playing time. Mm-hmm. That would be for the youth level. At the professional level, I would say sometimes, and it is what it is, like sometimes you make a decision, there is two players competing from the same spot, and your gut feeling tells you like, I need to play that guy because I think he's gonna give me more of this or more of that. And sometimes you make decisions that are based only on your feeling. But most of the time, I'd say at the professional level, it's the same thing. It's like you're creating the structure for the team. Within that structure, you have some requirements, some things you want to see, something you want to have on the field, and based on that you give feedback to the players. The players that are doing it then are the players that are going to play, because that's the players that are going to bring you closer to your end goal, what you want to achieve as a team. And the players that don't are probably going to put themselves on the side and are going to need to work harder. And sometimes you have two players that are performing at the same level, and little details makes a difference. So I'd say it's all about like being open-minded. You see so many examples nowadays where players are probably like challenged and not playing as much, and there is something that clicks within them where they are like, instead of seeing that as a bad thing, they see that as like a struggle, but they embrace it and they work harder, and they try to get better on this like task that is asked from the coaches, and work their way up again, and are gonna play. Like sport is so dynamic as well, like it's not linear, so like things changes quite quickly, and that's why you can see that the players and athletes that have the most success are the ones that are the most resilient, that are able to sustain for such a long time a level of performance, going through struggles and accepting it. And at the end, I'm sure it pays off.
And I like what you're saying. That's something that can be transferable in any sport. I think if you don't have clarity, it's going to be very difficult to give feedback that it's either feedback of play, feedback that it's technical, and you have to make sure that those things goes together. And I would even say that I'm not sure that a lot of coaches are using feedback as a tool. I think sometimes they just are up there, they give their lesson, they give their training, then they close the door, they go home. But the feedback of what's asked or the intention is not very present. So it's great to hear that those tools that you have.
And something I want to say about that as well, like in terms of feedback, it's always, and I've been there myself, sometimes you speak to the players and you think everything you say is clear because you understand it. You're the coach, so like you're supposed to have like a general understanding of things you ask from your players. And sometimes you communicate and you explain and you're like, oh, why is he not understanding? And sometimes you need to step back and be like, okay, the way I communicate, the word I use, is it clear for my players? And that's why I really believe, and more I believe in like having a clear and identified terminology. The way we speak should be understood by all our players. But also you need to use different tools. Like there is different type of learners, some that needs to see, some that are more auditive, some that are more kinesthetic. So you need to adjust also to your audience and make sure you touch everybody through the different tool you use. And now you can imagine also like working with like athletes at the professional level. We have Costa Rican, we have one Japanese, we had one French. You have players from all around the world, and their culture gives them something different. The way they learn, the way they see things, the way they interpret things. So you need also to you as a coach have a global understanding of like what feeding the players is. Like giving feedback is not just speaking with them, it's also like trying to understand who you have in front of you and what works best with that specific athlete. And I think the common language, the terminology is something like very, very important nowadays, especially with the new generation that are all about also like the content, social media. They like video, they like things that are bright, that are nice to look at. And I think you need to use that as well to give these feedbacks.
Yeah, and I think that's where coaching changed. I think before it was coaches driven. It was the coach, it was the entity, it was the person in charge, and whatever that person was saying, you have to listen. And I think now we're moving for the past few years. That is something that is more athlete centered. And I do think that is one of your quality that I've seen with the players in Montreal. And I think hearing you that you transfer also with the pro is that you're able to have a team goal that is your big umbrella, but you're also able to individualize into your team what you want to achieve for that goal. So I do think it's something that you have to learn. I don't think it comes naturally. Like you mentioned, when you're open and when you want to go outside of your comfort zone, I think that's where you get all the tools to be able to do that. But yes, to your point, clarity first, and making sure that we individualize the way we coach with the different culture, different age, different experience. We talked about feedback, and I'm interested to know if your feedback as an assistant coach is the same as what you went through for 15 games as a head coach. Because I think it was last year or the year before, your coach was fired for 15 games, I think. You came in head up as a head coach. Did it change anything in you? Did it change anything in the players? And also the other question I had, I'm like, what an amazing guy to be able to then take the position because of a situation and come back and being the assistant coach again. How was that situation for you, and how did your feedback change, if it changed because of your position?
First of all, like changing position is also, of course, it's a challenge. You're given like lots of responsibilities, and then you have a bit less. But what I've learned like over the years is like you need to be the best you can be in your role and your position, and that's something like I've grew a lot like over the past few years, like in Cincinnati, where you want to be the best you can be. Now, like when you step back and you become an assistant again, you want the best assistant you can be for your head coach. You want to help him, you want to support him, you want to make sure like you're an added value to him to make sure he's succeeded, but also like the team is succeeded. So for me, that's how I saw it. I saw also like the opportunity to be a head coach for a certain amount of game as a great opportunity to get out of my comfort zone
Again,
and like experience like something that I wish I will experience again like in few years, in a couple of years. So for me, it was almost like you have the opportunity to take that experience with you and to feel it and to really be in the earth of it, and to maybe see things that you're not going to see again for a couple of years, and draw conclusion out of it. So I took that opportunity this way, like seeing that. And of course, like you're in a rush of like what's happening in the season. We're in a terrible situation from a sporting standpoint, and we had to create something with the players. And again, it ties into what we want to do, what we want to achieve as a team. So for me, and that goes into like the start of our conversation, the way I try to create motivation again, create enjoyment, create that drive within the player, was to redefine and bring a lot of clarity in terms how we wanted to play and what was the path we were going to use to structure it and to implement it in training, to try to do it in the game. And by having that goal as a player, whether you win or whether you lose, you focus on the task, you focus on how you're going to play. So it helps you create like a new type of motivation. Whether the results are positive or negative, the players are focusing more on how we want to play as a team. And you can always like see some positive in it that helps you build like along the line. So I'd say like that was my biggest challenge at the time. And in terms of like how I was giving feedback to the players, I didn't want to change, because I think the biggest mistake for a coach is not to be true to himself. So for me, I wanted to be the same as a head coach that I was as an assistant.
mm-hmm.
Of course, you have different responsibilities and you have more or less time to do the same thing. So when you're a head coach, you're making like decision, which you're not making when you're an assistant coach. You're supporting decision. So the players know that. So of course, your relationship changed a little bit, but I was there for the players. I was trying to give them feedback. I was trying to keep them motivated. And the thing I always want to do is like to protect the players. We're having a project, we're putting things together, we're working hard. There is some requirement. There is things like discipline, effort, respect, like all these things that you want to see on a daily basis. And then when you perform on a game day, no matter what happened, if we respect what we've implemented during the week, I'm gonna back you up. So it's more that trust that you need to have with the players that I had as an assistant that I wanted to keep when I was the head coach, because you also know that, yeah, if you're gonna step back, your relationship is important with the player no matter what. So for me, it's always been like, I'd say, an important piece of my job is having this relationship. And having a relationship doesn't mean being nice with the players. It means being honest with them, being true to them. And sometimes it's hard to hear like the honest truth for a player. But the way you bring it to them, and if they see that you're saying that because you want the best for them, then they accept it. They might not feel the best after the conversation. They might not feel great, but they know that it's coming from a good place, and it's potentially going to help them to be better. So I think that's always like that angle you try to take. And yeah, the players, I think, appreciate that more than when you try to manipulate the truth, and try to lie to them. I don't believe in that at all, because I think it's you're gonna fail if you take it that way.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think it doesn't matter that you will probably have different tools to get where you want to go, but the relationship, the values are the same, that you're an assistant coach or that you're coaching someone that is going to the Australian Open, or a little kid that wants to be at the Australian Open. So I agree with you. I do think those values have to be there. And the aspect of trust and honesty is something that we undervalue. And I think not just in sport, I think in life it's like that also. And when you have that, I do think the players are giving you more. I think when the players have that sense that you have their back, not meaning that, like you said, that it's just about the aspect of pushing them away or being nice, but being honest. I think it makes an entire difference. And from what you're saying, that you had that as a assistant coach, you were able to transfer that in that situation. So Yoann, I know that a lot of coaches are gonna listen to this. You said in the beginning that you've been inspired to by coaches about being open, getting outside the comfort zone, being passionate about their sport, being there for their athletes. So what would you say to a coach that is listening to you and that will probably say, I want to do what Yoann is doing. I want to get into coaching. I'm 16, 17 years old. I love my sport, and that's what I want to do. What would you say to those coaches?
The first thing I want to say is like, it might sound cheesy, but believe in your dream. If that's something you want to do, believe in it. I remember I was 16 years old, and when I said I want to become a coach, I saw in the eyes of my parents that they were like, okay, like where is he gonna go? Like, how is it gonna end? And I was really proud to move to Montreal and basically tell my parents, like, I told you I was gonna do it, and now I'm on that path. And it's not about like doing it at first, it's about like having the longest career possible. So the first thing for me is that, like, have a dream and do everything you can to achieve that dream. Of course, like, that dream is like probably the end, and between that dream and now, you need to have like goals that you're gonna achieve like along the way. I'd say the second thing is like, stay out of your comfort zone. Like, every time you feel comfortable, try to get out, try to learn a new thing, try to challenge yourself, try to challenge like your convictions, by sharing, by discussing with other people. And that goes with being like open-minded. Like, I've tried to meet as many people as I can, and I keep trying. And every opportunity I get to have like a bit of vacation, I don't go on vacation. I go in like visiting clubs, trying to find coaches that would accept me for 1 week to watch training, to discuss with them, discuss with their staff, because I want to see like different things. I wanna challenge myself, like, and not think that my way is the right way.
Mm-hmm.
There is thousands right ways, and I want to learn like as much as I can. And I'd say the last thing for me that's been key is you need to embrace the struggles. It's never gonna be like all nice. Like, coaches that are only winning, that are competing every weekend to be the best, are probably like a few percentage of the coaches in the world. So you need to understand that your job is gonna be most of the time you're gonna be like in the struggles. You're gonna have to face hardships, and it's all about how you deal with them. And it's funny because that experience I had with like coaching the team in the past 2 years as a head coach, where you find yourself like probably at the lowest point you can be, because like I remember one game we got beat 7-1. And as a coach, as a football coach, that's something you don't wanna live ever. And I found myself the next day being so down because of that, because you're like, okay, first your ego is like taking a big knock, but also like you're like, okay, we need to bounce back from that. And I found myself enjoying it. I was like, yeah, like this is like, sorry for the curse, that's the good stuff. That's the moment where you feel alive. You feel like, okay, now it's like I've been knocked out. I need to stand up and fight again. I need to find ways. I need to be creative. I need to challenge my people. I need to find the motivation within these people to stand up again and go for the next one. And I think that's the beauty of what we do. I think there is more lows than there is highs. So you need to appreciate the highs, but probably not put the highs too high and the low too low. And you need to be like consistent. You need to be consistent all along the way. You need to take the knocks, stand up and go again and learn from it. And I love that saying that says like there is coaches that have 20 years experience, but it's 20 times 1 year. And there is coaches that have 20 years experience in one block, because they learn from everything that happened. And that's how I see it. I don't want to like put 1 year and then another year and another year and another year. What I want is like use the past to draw conclusion and to keep moving forward. And sometimes remember, I did this, didn't work. Do I want to try it again, or do I want to go and try go in a different direction? So I think that's very important to me. And when you take on that journey of being a coach, whatever sport it is, you need to be able to embrace the struggles, embrace the low, and keep moving forward and keep striving to get better. Because sometimes you can feel really bad, and if you're not that strong, you're gonna give up, and that's not the right thing. So that would be my advices. And everybody is different. Everybody is taking a different path. So like hopefully some can take some of it.
Oh, and listen, I love what you're saying, and I think it's a message that is so important, because at the end of the day, if you're in coaching, to have a straight line and to think that you're going to go to the top and it's going to be great. I always say to young coaches, you should decide to do another career. And I do think you're right. I think we're all, even 30 years later, I'm going to fall, and you need to learn from it and just stand up and try to continue. And I'm like you. I think you need to have that dream. It's like no different for coaches than it is for kids. They need to have that dream, to have a purpose, to be able to say, this is what I would like to do, and train in that pathway. And sometimes they're going to lose more than they're going to win, but it's part of the process. So I think the takeaways there are very important. Yoann, before we end this, because again, so many great things that we've been talking about here. One thing that is very close to me, and I think it's close to you, it's music. And I'm pretty sure when you travel, when you're on your plane, your buses, you have some downtime, what would be a group or a song that either defines you or that you put on repeat? Like this is like when you want to go up, and I know that music for me is related to emotions, and when I want to be happy or nostalgic, I have different songs. What is it for you?
So I listen to like a wide range of type of music. So I can listen like more rap, more pop. I can listen to classical music. I'm quite open in terms of music, and like deep house and this type of stuff. Like that's gonna depend on my mood. But I'd say something that has been with me for a long time, and all my colleagues, like whether it's in Montreal or in Cincinnati, they know about it, is like I love to listen an Italian pianist, so more classical music, and that's something every year it's in my top of
Wow.
the music I listen to, or the artist I listen to. So he's called Ludovico Einaudi, and he
Okay.
made lots of soundtracks for a couple of movies, and that movie Untouchable from
Yes.
that French movie Untouchable,
Yes.
that is beautiful. He made the soundtracks for this movie. So like I'd say like it's been 8 years that this artist has been with me. It brings me like peace of mind, but also like helps me be in my zone when I need to work on the laptop or like do video analysis, or I need to think about work stuff. So I love to listen to him. I had the opportunity to go to one of his concerts in Montreal before I left for
Wow.
Cincinnati, and I'm a big fan of his music. Like it's beautiful, and helps me like travel to a different world and focus and put my thoughts together.
Oh, I'm gonna have a look after this conversation. And you mentioned that you don't like comfort. For you, you want to always get out of your comfort zone. What is next for you? What would be, are you taking again life and see where life's gonna bring you and all the experience around it? Or you have a goal or something's gonna come that you want to make sure that you're gonna achieve in your young coaching career?
I'm not setting goals for myself. Like what I want, my biggest dream is to live from football for the rest of my life, and I'm working as hard as possible to make it happen. So for me, that would be my biggest goal for the rest of my life. Is like I want to be a coach for the coming like 40, 50 years, for as long as possible. Now what's next is more like I focus on the process. I focus on every day on how I can be the best I can be, like in what I'm doing right now, in my assistant job, but also like trying to keep challenging myself. I spoke about like I'm doing these Spanish classes that I've started recently. I want to improve on that. I'm doing my pro license with the US Soccer Federation, so it's also a good challenge for me. So all these things are more like I'm focusing more on the task. That's the same thing of like that I would ask from a player, is like focus on like not the end product, but how we're gonna get there. So that's what I'm trying to apply to myself, trying to be the best I can be every single day, and taking I'd say I'm not gonna say one day at a time, but a season at a time, and see where it will bring me, and then we will see.
That's great. That's great. And honestly, I know that there's so much you can give to the sport and even outside of the sport. And I really wish that life will bring you different experiences that will bring you that nourishment of learning, because I do think that's something that you want to do through that process. So everyone can follow you on all social media. We talked about it a bit earlier before we started. There is an adjustment in the season of the MLS. I think you guys will be starting this in April. We'll be doing some camps and some training since then. So, Yoann, I wish you all the best in the season coming, but also in your professional career. And I really hope that at one point we'll be able to touch base when you're back and see us in Montreal.
For sure. It was a great pleasure to talk to you. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Yoann. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this month's podcast. Go to coachseve.com in the media section and share your experience, questions, and comments. Thank you guys for listening and being part of the Seve Talk community. Until next time, Seve's out.